Okay, well, good evening. Welcome to Lighthouse Trolleys and Tours. My name is Harry. This is Rick.
Good evening, everybody.
And we'll be your host tonight. Okay, for the longest time, I've been the only Undertaker on this island. Over the years, I've buried many people. But not all of them remain in the ground. Some of them are out here walking the streets. Some of them are out here on the beach when we have a beach. So tonight we're going to go in search of some of those lost souls that have refused to leave this island. First story I'm going to tell tonight is about the most famous ghost on the island. Her name was Mary. Now, there's a lot of stories about Mary, but I'm going to tell you a story that a woman told me many years ago. The woman's name was Mrs. Butler, and she lived on Butler Avenue right over here by Roberta's. And Mrs. Butler had this little yappy dog, and every night she'd walk that dog. And she told me one night she was walking her dog, and she saw something coming towards her in the distance. Said at first it looked like it was just a big red ball of fire. As it got right up to her, it looked like a white blob, and then when it was right in her face, it was Mary. Well, she freaked out, but not as much as that dog. That dog ran away. She searched and searched for that dog. That dog was never seen again. Dogs don't do well with Mary. Now, I thought that was the end of the story, but a few months ago, I met this man that said that he knew Mrs. Butler, knew Mr. Butler as well. Said there was an end to that story that she didn't tell me. Said when she got home and she went to her husband, she was crying, telling him that Mary had killed her little dog. Well, he got his shotgun and went after her. I don't know what he was going to do with that. Chased her all the way down to the pier, and she walked out on the water and just disappeared. So now there's an end to that story. But there is one lighthouse keeper that has refused to leave this lighthouse. His name was Frederick Osborne. I like to call him Fred. Fred had an assistant. His name was John Stevens. They took care of that light. They also shared living quarters. Fred lived on the bottom floor. Stevens lived on the second. Now in 1880, something came between these two men. It was a woman. Fred learned that Stevens was messing around with his wife. He got mad and pulled a pistol. John went up to his room and got a shotgun. Came back down on that second step. Going up, he shot Fred dead. Now today, some people say you can still see his blood bubbling up on that step. I'm going to tell you a story a woman told me years ago. She also loved the beach. I can't remember her name. I can't even remember where she was from. She lived up north somewhere. And she used to come here every summer, and every summer she'd walk on the beach really late at night, but she'd always walk alone. And she told me one night she was walking, she heard something behind her, and she looked back and there was somebody following her. It was a woman. Said she had long hair and a long white dress, and she was walking with her head down. It sounded as if she was crying. I knew it was Mary. I knew the stories, but she didn't, so she did something really dumb. She went over and tried to talk to her, and said when she tried to talk to her, and Mary raised her head, she had no face, just melted into the sand right in front of her eyes. She screamed and went back to her friends telling this story. And she got so angry with her friends because her friends said it's no big deal. You just had an encounter with Mary the Wanderer. She's been seen so much, it's how people feel. It's just Mary. It's just Mary. Years ago, I had this man take my tour. Now, he was kind of strange. He said that he would go to the cemetery at night and he would lay on top of the grave. Said if he was very quiet and laid very still, he could hear the heart beat of the woman buried there.
As you can see for this story, I shut everything down. We like it dark. We like it quiet. We ask that you please refrain from using your cell phone. And you listen very closely, very intently, to the words in the story. The Undertaker is about to tell you.
It's a vacation rental now. It's rented most of the time, especially in the summer. But I heard a story about this house years ago, and I never told the story because I could never prove that the story was true. The story was there was a little boy that lived in this room right here where that window's all dark. And he fell out of that window, and he must have fallen wrong because it's not a long drop, but he died, and he's supposed to haunt this house. Like I said, I never told the story, but then 3 years ago, a family reunion rented one of our trolleys. They rented the whole trolley. It was a huge family. Now, even though I didn't tell that story, I've always talked about the house. So that night, we stopped here, and I was talking about the house, and this woman said, "We're staying there." I thought, really? I'm going to tell that story. So I told the story. There was a little boy who said, "I'm staying in that room. I've seen that boy." I've been telling the story ever since. And since I've been telling the story, there's been people come down here late at night and taking pictures of that window. And they come to the pier and show me those pictures. There's been movement in that window.